Hey everybody, Kolpack and Izzo Podcast, again on location. I'm in Minot, Kolpack in the luxurious Forum Studios, getting ready for the 113th all-time matchup between North Dakota State and the University of North Dakota. I'd imagine this is probably the first time when the NCAA basketball tournament is happening at the same time as the Bison and Fighting Hawks are set to play. That's also the backdrop, Jeffrey, of the uniqueness and weirdness of this. We're watching the best event in college sports, and we got the greatest rivalry in North Dakota set to play tomorrow.
I'm curious to see how many Bison fans will truly showed up. I looked into it this week and did a column partially on the attendance. The Bison are capped at 9,500 fans, as we all know, this spring. And most of those tickets have been bought and spoken for. But we've seen in the first two games, the crowd has been between 6,100 and is actually more than that for the opener, which is surprising. Gets Youngstown back in February with about 6,800 or so. Interested to see if that's going to be about the same, or are these fans just going to that have the tickets and not go and just throw them in the garbage, or are they going to go? I mean,
what's your gut tell you?
About the same.
Yeah.
Why would this be any different than last week? I mean, I know it's UND, and I know it's got a lot more riding on it, but if you don't feel comfortable going, I don't care who's coming into the dome. It doesn't matter if it's Florida State and Florida playing an exhibition here tomorrow. I mean, if you don't want to go, and that's the way it is.
Yeah, I don't think our snowbirds coming in from Arizona to come to this that normally would be here. I don't think that's going to be the case.
No, absolutely not. It's a different deal. The game's bigger for UND. I think that has been established this week.
Yep.
That this would be a chance for the Fighting Hawks. And I think if the Hawks win this game tomorrow, and they should be favored, by the way. I know that.
What's Vegas trying to jack up the money here, my man?
They must. Yeah, I'm not a gambler, but maybe that's what they do. But there's no question, I think, in all of our minds that UND is the favorite by 3-4 points, not NDSU. So if the Hawks win this game, I think rivalry, it's game on, man, right? Next fall, look out. And now we're going to have tailgating. Yep. The ticket at the Alaris, what's that going to go for? $100 bucks?
Look at that, because they theoretically could play twice in 7 months, because they're going to play here, and they're going to play 7 months from now in Grand Forks. And if UND wins this game, look out. I had circled that one, Jeff, for a while, the 2021 game up there, because UND had come here, and obviously the games had not been close. But that first trip up there, I was really interested to see how reaction would be. Now, if UND has a win in that, look out. That and they could meet even before that. If the playoffs go like we've seen in the past, you could talk about 3 games in a 7-month span between the two.
It's too bad that game next fall is in the first. It's the first.
It's the first conference game. Yeah,
I'm with you. Those kind of rivalries: Michigan, Ohio State, Florida State, USC, UCLA, North Dakota State, UND, South Dakota State, South Dakota. Last game of the year should always be the last game.
You also wrote about retiring the nickel until it becomes a rivalry again, so to speak. I don't want to see the nickel again. I'd like to see something different. If they're going to do it, play for a different trophy. If they're gonna go down that road.
Why do lawmakers feel like they have to get their toes in sports?
Everything. I know.
I just have a little issue with that. Govern the state of North Dakota. Yep. Let the athletics programs handle themselves.
That's the past, right? I mean, that's long over with now. That's 2003. We're on to so much. It's 2021. We're on to talking to Cam Miller's dad, and obviously he's from Iowa, but they weren't even born the last time that they played as conference rivals. It was 18 years ago.
So what are you going to do? Are you going to take that nickel and take the American Indian off as a representation of the old Sioux logo and put a hawk on that side? No. You can't do that. You can't replicate the nickel. You cannot do that.
No.
Leave it at the State Historical Society in Bismarck. Just let it be in a little historical item in the past. Come up with something new, much like what NDSU and South Dakota State did with the Dakota marker, which was really quite genius if you think about it. I didn't know those markers existed. When the trophy was unveiled by the two student groups.
And it's become something. It's become, granted, it was totally made up, but it's become something now that each team wants.
NDSU, when they built their football offices in the second floor of the dome, built it with a trophy case, which amazingly fits the Dakota marker just perfect. Imagine that.
It's funny how that works out. Last time we chatted on Monday, you were still up in the air about starting quarterback. You got a firm mind of who's going to start for the Bison tomorrow?
No, there's a couple of train of thoughts here. If you go with Zeb Nolan, you don't go very long. And the reason you do that is he's a fifth-year guy. He's 23 years old. Give the true freshman a series or two to scope things out. Don't put it all on the true freshman's back. That's the mindset that on one hand. On the other, let him go. He's obviously the better quarterback right now.
Yep.
Give him the keys from down one. If the third series is big enough for him, why not the first series?
That's been my argument all week. I don't think I'm going to be right on that. I think Zeb's going to start this game, but it might be the quick hook. In baseball, they have the opener now, Kolpack, where the guy goes the first 2 innings and any sign of trouble, he's out of the game. I think, what do you give Nolan? 2 series? And then if things aren't moving, put Cam Miller in?
At the most, I suppose.
Yeah.
I guess you try to keep UND guessing a little bit, but they know they're going to see Cam Miller more than Zeb Nolan, and this isn't rocket science here.
Yeah, that's right. You're right on that part. The other part, and we're not going to know till 2:30 or maybe 1:30 tomorrow during warmups, is who's playing for the Bison. Who's going to go? Is Nash Jensen going to play? We looked like Christian Watson was okay after he came back into the game after he got his bell rung against Illinois State. Who's going to be out there playing for the Bison? I mean, I'm looking at the depth chart again, and Hunter Lupke and Dawson Weber on it. And they haven't dressed all season. I can't imagine they're going to play. They're not playing at all this spring, I'd imagine.
I don't think so. At least they took Phoenix Bowles off the depth chart.
Right.
They did. Of more importance to you, Dom, are we going to see the Harvest helmets tomorrow in the gold?
Boy, they haven't lost it in Kolpack. Are you going to put that record on the line? Or the green or the yellow jerseys too. They haven't lost either one.
Yep.
I don't know.
What would you do?
I would go traditional. If I'm Matt Eds, I know him. I think they will go the traditional look. Even though they did wear the yellow jerseys against UND the first time they played them in 2015, but I think they go the traditional route on this tomorrow. I was thinking about this when I was driving out here, looking. The biggest key to me of this game, I look at the Bison linebackers against Otis Weah. And I mean, if I'm UND, if I'm Danny Freund, I'm going to try and exploit Jackson Hankey probably in the middle there. You got Jasir Cox on the outside and James Kaiser, who are both quick. If I'm going, I'm not saying that Hankey's unathletic, but that's where JMU targeted as well for that national championship game.
It's going to be a big game for the Bison D-line to try to disrupt things before they get to that second level.
How do you do that too? I mean, Schuster dropped. I mean, literally, it's like 1, 2, 3, gone when he throws the ball.
I think you got to play tight coverage first of all if you're the corners, but South Dakota State did that, and South Dakota State went deep against UND or vice versa.
Yeah.
But I don't think UND has really shown the ability to hit the home run ball per se. I don't even know if they've tried much. I haven't obviously watched all their games. I see the Bison. I see Josh Hayes going. Preparing and prepping for the bubble screen more than 30-yard out.
Yep. I think that's key on this. Tommy Schuster, the UND quarterback, completing 68% of his passes, 7 touchdowns, only 2 picks so far. That quick game has been so effective, and that's where – and the Bison defensive line, I think, has gotten better. You take the SIU game out of it, obviously. Mo State and Illinois State, Braden Thomas up front, McCormick – obviously, Wagey Kolpack is playing at another level. That's interesting. If they can get to him, how much that disrupts UND's whole flow on offense.
Yeah, that's always a big thing. And, of course, turnovers will play a factor in this too, that it could go either. Here's another thing. Who's going to get the 3 to 5 yards on first down?
Bison have not been able to do that.
Oh, how many times have we seen them in 2nd and 9?
Right.
A lot.
Yes.
And you put a true freshman quarterback in 2nd and 9, it's not as productive a situation as a 2nd and 4 when you can probably do the quick out or do some more variety of plays that you don't have to try to get 8-9 yards at a time. I think NDSU's production on first down will be huge tomorrow. Huge.
Who's getting majority of the carries? I'm going back to Dom Ganella. Kobe has, I don't know, not plateaued is not the right word, but it doesn't seem like he's ability to get to the outside and go. It's more of a stutter and then he goes. I'm giving it right to Ganella. There's no hesitation there. He gets the ball and he hits the hole.
Well, Colby was really effective last year, but he had other running backs to go with him, with like Cofield,
right,
and just more depth there. I think now I think you're looking at Ty Brooks. Let's not forget about guys like that. Now you're looking at I think I'd go with Ganella. I think he's got a little extra gear inside the tackles. Colby can run hard, but I don't think he runs as hard as Ganella. And again, here's a true freshman playing a big role in the game, but that's where they're at right now.
We were getting a little flack about saying Otis Weah is the best back in the FCS. I'm sticking to it. He's played like the best back in the FCS so far in 2021. That's the biggest key, is how they stop him, because every single highlight we've run, he gets and bounces off the guys. The first guy has not brought him down.
What is his yards after contact, you think, this year? That's got to lead the country too.
Yes. Average of 110 yards a game and 6 touchdowns. He has put the ball on the turf, and that's been interesting. He has turned it over, but UND has always responded from that.
Yeah, and again, I go back to the turnover margin could be a huge factor, like it always is in games like this. High scoring or low scoring? Got to be low scoring, isn't it?
For the game, you're saying total? Yeah, I don't see this as a 35-31 kind of game. I don't think the Bison can play that kind of game right now. We haven't seen any indication that they can go up and down the field at anybody.
Christian Watson has yet to see the end zone, which is a little bit of a surprise through 4 games. They got to try to get him on track. He might have scored twice last week,
right,
on good throws. So it's not like he hasn't reached the end zone; it just hasn't completed.
And that's the thing that's still befuddling. I've had people ask me out here in Minot, like, what happened? Did the Bison coaches just not evaluate him correctly, or has he underperformed? And my best answer is maybe a little bit of both, maybe on that.
Yeah, I think so. I thought he'd be a little quicker. I thought he'd maybe add a little more to the run game, but that really has been non-existent. And that goes back to the West Coast offense, and why you have to go with Cam Miller is at least he gives you a variety and a dual threat. And you're facing a 3-4 now too. That in the past, if you're not dual threat, man, that can really give you problems. If you're one dimensional, look out.
Being obviously in Fargo all week, I'm curious, we talked about this a few years ago. You thought the heat would come as the week went along. Has that happened? Have you noticed that either with Bison or UND fans, or not so much?
I have not, but this is also a pandemic era where people just aren't out and about, I guess.
And it's March, right? It's
March,
not October.
I go back to, how many of those fly-by-night football leagues try to get going in the spring? The XFL, the World Football League, I don't know, you name them, right?
The Alliance of American Football, yep.
And you know why they never worked? Because we as Americans like football in the fall. It's as simple as that.
I'm watching basketball right now. It's the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, it's March. So, yeah, I think that's a number one reason is we're just creatures of habit, and we like football in the fall. We do. Oh, it's beautiful out right now. It feels like a prime tailgate day. And that's the other thing, too. There's no tailgate.
Yep.
I mean, say what you want.
But you know what? They're playing. You know what? But they're playing the season. And here's the thing. For UND, this is their opportunity. They win here on Saturday, Kolpack. They're the Missouri Valley champs, or at least the inside road to it, and likely the number 1 overall seed in the tournament. I mean, everything is right there for them if they can do this tomorrow.
And they all have swept the North Dakotas and South Dakotas, which is a huge deal.
Yep.
That South Dakota State win was big.
Monstrous. Yep.
You can say what you want about the South Dakota win because the Coyotes had to travel after traveling to Illinois State on Thursday. You can say about Southern Illinois overlooking UND because NDSU is the following week. You can't throw any of that at the South Dakota State game. That was a legit impressive win. Straight up.
And actually, SDSU had 1 extra day to prepare because SDSU played on a Friday. They had 1 extra day the prior week before they went to Grand Forks. You're right on that. And then you look at the back end. Now, granted, we have done this before in the league, and teams have been tripped up. UND has Youngstown on the road, Mo State in Grand Forks, and then they go to Illinois State. I mean, that's about as good a schedule as you want.
Right, and by the time they get to Illinois State, I wonder how many players the Redbirds will put out there that are slated to be starters in the fall.
Well,
why would you?
Right, exactly. And that's the thing. If the Bison lose this game, is NDSU do the same thing? They'll have 2 losses, Kolpack. There'll be no wiggle room for the last 3 games of the season.
I think you still. Oh, you don't bench your starters. Is that what you're saying?
No.
7-2 still gets you in.
Yes, but again, you got to win at South Dakota, beat South Dakota State, and win at Northern Iowa. That's a tall task on that front. If they can't win tomorrow,
right? I think South Dakota is still rebuilding a little bit.
Yep.
South Dakota State is in almost the same. South Dakota State and Northern Iowa, I feel like in NDSU are just sort of in the same grouping of former veteran teams trying to win with young guys.
Well, that's what makes tomorrow's game in Carbondale all that is intriguing as the game in Fargo. SDSU plays at SIU tomorrow, and that is if SIU gets that, they're 4-1 in league play with a win over the Bison and a win over the Jacks. Man, then you may be talking 3 teams out of the Missouri Valley, which I know we've totally thrown out, but if the Bison finish 7-2, how do they take them out? You know what I mean?
Know. That's a great question. And then you got James Madison taking 2 weeks off here because of COVID.
And you have no idea who knows if they can even play next week. That's suddenly up in the air right now.
Right. And so, there's a lot of questions and a lot of uniqueness that have yet to be addressed. Speaking of unique, Dom, you're in Minot. I was watching the game last night. After the Edgley Column Montpelier, do I have that right?
Yep.
Game, the players shook hands.
Yes. Yep.
Any hubbub about that?
Not much. And I would tell you it's different on the western side of the state. It really is than back in Fargo. I've had a couple people remark to me about that same deal. I think it's as it is everywhere in the country. The virus has become politicized to a way where wearing a mask, I've gotten evil looks at me, weird looks like I'm wearing one. I'm like, we're still in the middle of this, and you'll see shots of the crowd. And I know you have watching over the last couple of weeks, and there's
no social distancing at the Minot Dome.
Right.
No.
Nobody.
No.
And it's, again, it all depends on, I think, where you're living, what people want to do with it. And you're right. I saw it yesterday. I didn't say anything because I was still kind of awestruck, maybe that's the right word, but I was like, wow, that's different. But I thought that wasn't going to happen.
It looked like they weren't supposed to shake hands.
Yes.
I think one of the coaches just said, ushered them forward, go.
Totally agree on that. Before we wrap, quick word here about what Bubba Schweigert's done with this team. I think a lot of us still thought they were a couple years away. Apparently they're there now. What do you say about what Bubba's done here and the chance they have tomorrow?
He kept with it. He kept with the program. I thought it was pretty impressive what he did with you hear about NDSU winning these in-state recruiting battles, right? They got everybody they wanted. Who did UND get? Well, obviously they're getting players. I mean, maybe they're not getting the top North Dakota prospects, but there's over 100 guys on a football team, and I think they've done obviously a really good job of recruiting, and more importantly, they developed the strength of the lines.
Think of this, Kolpack. 2 of North Dakota guys, Adam Zavalny and Bo Belquist, both Class B guys, have performed and scored touchdowns so far. So that may have been picked over by even us and NDSU fans, but they're producing. Like you said, they developed them. Zavalny's a redshirt freshman. Belquist's a true freshman that are out there playing right now.
And isn't Belquist leading the team in receptions?
Yes. Yep.
And he has lineage, his 2 brothers, NDSU.
Yes. Another great connection for tomorrow. We will save our picks for Inforum.com and the newspaper tomorrow, but I think everybody kind of knows where at least Mike, Jeff, and myself are leaning. I know you've kept it close to the vest, so I don't want to pry that out of you. I will ask you on the game tomorrow in Carbondale. Who you got there?
Wow. Is SIU's quarterback is still out, is he not, Baker?
Yes. Yeah, they're down their number 3 guy, I believe.
But South Dakota State has been all right. They still have Pierre Strong, and I'm waiting for Pierre Strong to get going. Yep. Maybe tomorrow is the day. I look for the Jackrabbits to get some ground game going and behind Pierre Strong win that game.
Okay, he's got the Jacks. I'll just disagree with you. I'm going to take SIU. I'll take them at home tomorrow. We'll see what happens on that front. Before we wrap, got a shout out to our guys up at Click Content for producing that Behind the Zone. You can check it out, inforum.com, to see how the sausage gets made, how we do stuff every week. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I noticed that you gave me a couple backhanded stabs in your office. Is that a regular occurrence?
As much as you gave me a backhanded stab about my question to Dom Jones. So
that was bad. Come on.
All righty. Bison pregame show tomorrow, 11 a.m. on WDAY Extra, inforum.com, with Zach Staten, Jeff, and Mike McFeely will be by. Games at 2:30. We'll have our live blog going at 1:30 at inforum.com, and then post-game show wrapping things up at inforum.com. Hey, have a great day tomorrow, my man. Enjoy the game.
Enjoy the state beat title. What a great day that is in North Dakota.
No doubt about it. For Jeff Kolpack, I'm Dom Izzo. That's the latest Kolpack and Izzo podcast, brought to you by Gate City Bank.